Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
As spring arrives, we're all ready to once again get outside and get back to work or explore all that Wyoming has to offer. But with Wyoming's winter weather and now record-setting snowpack in some areas, what are the weather folks saying about the potential for flooding? The impact of Wyoming snow, next on Wyoming Chronicle. And as we look to understand the impact of Wyoming's winter, we're pleased to be joined by Tim Troutman, the Warning Coordination Meteorologist here at the National Weather Service office in Riverton. Tim, thank you so much for joining us on Wyoming Chronicle.
Well, thanks for coming out to the National Weather Service here in Riverton. We're glad to have you here, and we're ready to talk about all things weather.
Sure. You know, I think this is an appropriate place for us to be because for us in central Wyoming this year, this seemed like a record-setting year in many respects. We had a lot of snow. We had snow that stayed. It got very cold. We know there's a lot of snow here in the Wind River Mountains. Classify this winter for us, if you would, Tim.
Well, just involving the total amount of snowfall from October to the present, we've had 52.1 inches of snow that's been recorded here in Riverton. And last year at this point, we had surprisingly 53.5 inches.
That is a surprise.
Yes, and so we have dropped a little bit to third place. The winter of 1919-1920, we had about 63.5 inches at this point. That was number one. Last year, number two at this point, and we're at third place all time in involving the climate records for snowfall up to this point. We were number one, but we have dropped down to number three due to just dry conditions that have been occurring the past 2 or 3 weeks.
And that actually might be a good thing when you consider flood potential, and that's something where I'd like to get into right off the top.
Sure.
Because it is record-setting snowpack, at least in the southern Wind River Range.
Yes, and looking at the snow water equivalent, which helps us to figure out, you know, how much normal and above normal snowpack and the water that's laying there with the snow that's there, you know, right now across the region from in the Wind River Range area and over west of toward Jackson and surrounding areas. We're running at 150 to 210% of normal. So there's a lot of snow that's still left in the higher elevations especially, and that's going to, you know, be a continued concern as we have warming continuing over the next couple of weeks. And you know, the one thing that we're looking at right now is the fact, will there be heavy rainfall that could fall on the snowpack, which would further aggravate the snowmelt and the runoff that's been occurring. And we've had some, you know, some issues with some of the surrounding rivers already this winter and
very
latter
early
part of the winter.
historically,
yes.
Correct?
Early historically. You know, definitely toward the Hudson area and up toward you know, Washakie County and into the Bighorn Basin region. A few weeks ago in February, we had you know, some flooding issues there, and right now in Granger, the region there, they've been receiving some flood problems related to the snowmelt. So that's going to continue potentially, and we're just you know, looking ahead, and our concern is going to be, you know, is there going to be heavy rainfall that's going to accompany the warm temperatures?
So how do you project that then? In other words, if you're a rancher or someone who's planning to get outside and recreate here in Wyoming, is it 100% likely there'll be flooding in central Wyoming? Is it 60% likely? Is it we just don't know yet? Stay tuned. How do you estimate really what the impact of this snow is going to be?
Well, each winter, about once a month, we issue a spring snowmelt flood potential outlook, and that product gives in a range from, you know, slight to moderate to high probabilities of you know, potential flooding issues. So, you know, right now the moderate to high ranges are definitely along the Little Poposia River, and also you know, the Little Wind River region from Riverton to Lander area, a little bit southwest of Pinedale, where there's quite a bit of snow pack there. Also southwest of Jackson, north of Jackson, along the Snake River headwaters, and further on to the Snake River as you head a little further west of Jackson. Those are some moderate to higher potential areas where there could be some snow melt, flooding issues as we head further into the latter part of winter.
And what does that high classification really mean? Is that a high potential for potential property loss? Do you get into
Well, it's just a high potential.
Guesstimates?
It's a high potential for flooding, and whether it's going to be just a lower level agricultural interest, or will it affect you know, homes and businesses and things like that. That's the real question, and that's what we look at into our short term, involving our you know, working closely with the river forecast centers that cover our area. We have 3 separate river forecast centers that cover the region here in central and western Wyoming. We coordinate with those river forecast centers within the National Weather Service. They're hydrologists that are very similar, you know, and they have meteorology training too, and we work closely with those portions of the National Weather Service to help us put together the most timely and accurate river stage forecasts. And if we need to issue river stage warnings for any of the rivers that could be out of bank, that's what we're going to be looking to do. And we coordinate closely with other surrounding National Weather Service offices, the Pocatello office in Idaho, you know, with some of the drainage issues, and also the Cheyenne office, Rapid City, Billings, and you know, the other offices that serve Wyoming. So,
Sure.
so we maintain that continuous watch of not only the rivers but also weather, and we look at the 7. You know, we definitely issue as timely and accurate forecast as we can involving the 7-day forecast. And once you get outside of the 7-day forecast, that's when you get into the Climate Prediction Center folks. They are within NOAA and the National Weather Service, and they issue the 8 to 14-day outlooks, and that gives us a you know, whether you know, temperatures and precipitation are going to be at or slightly above normal or below normal. We provide the normals, you know, involving that, and that's based on statistics and the trending that's occurring within the weather pattern. So we take all that into account to, you know, raise our concern level if we need to, and that's where we head toward issuing the appropriate river forecasts and flood warnings if needed.
It seems to me that when there is flooding, that people are always scrambling to react. Is there advice that you provide or can give that people, whether they be property owners, farmers, etc., some really precautions they should be taking now, well in front of potential floods if they're in one of these moderate or high zones?
Well, the thing to be thinking about, if you're in the moderate or high spring snowmelt flood potential, when we get closer to an event beginning, we would issue especially if there's a system coming through that could provide rainfall, you know, we would be at that point for those areas potentially issuing a flood watch. And once a flood watch is issued, that means conditions are favorable for flooding in those locations over the next you know, numerous hours. And we try to issue that flood watch as far out in advance so that people can get as much of a heads up in advance to take the necessary sandbagging precautions or to move their equipment and other items to higher ground and safer locations.
Do you have any feel for, at this point, we're filming this in mid-March, a longer-term feel of what our short-term precipitation is going to be? Are you hoping, well, hoping may not be the right word for you, but are you projecting perhaps a drier spring than normal, which may help the flood potential?
Well, I can tell you definitely within the next month or so, we're looking at, unfortunately, at or slightly above normal precipitation continuing. So that's going to potentially, depending on the the timing of an event and you know, how heavy any rainfall or you know, precipitation could be, that could lead to some issues related to the amount of snowpack that's already on the ground. And that would definitely lead to the melting that could occur with warmer than normal temperatures that continuing to be expected. So
are you really though concerned?
We are concerned
yeah.
that this is there's going to be some flooding issues, and definitely in central and western Wyoming due to the near record amounts of snow that we've had. And with the snow water equivalency of the precipitation that's already fallen on the ground, and the soil being so wet and being at 150 to 200% normal of the amount of moisture that's on the ground, that's going to further potentially cause some issues that we're going to be concerned about. And we're going to be definitely necessarily issuing the products and the forecasting warnings that we need to, and advisories to get that message out. That's number one.
How does technology and tools allow you to better do that? I'm sure they've evolved recently.
Sure, we have a system here known as AWIPS-2, and we're able to look at satellite data in real time along with radar information. We can overlay that data together. We have basically the best forecast weather models in the world to help us to determine how much precipitation is going to fall across our area. We now have what's called GOES-16 satellite data that's flowing into our system here at the National Weather Service. This is going to be a groundbreaking amount of satellite data, and the preciseness of the satellite data is going to further improve our weather forecasting capabilities. And as we're training on that new system and getting better at that, that's going to further lead to more accurate warnings and lead time involving potential flooding and other severe weather episodes that could happen. So, we're excited about that. We're using a lot of different data to look at each day to formulate that forecast. And basically, at the National Weather Service, our technology is top of the line. There's no other country that has this data set and the observational data and the radar network that we have here in the U.S. And we're well covered in the Wyoming area to continue to provide the best service possible. That's what we're out to do here at the National Weather Service.
Do you look back and can you tell me that, based on 10 years ago, we are 10% better now, or 20 years ago, we are 15% better now. And then with this new systems that you're talking about, give us a feel for percentage-wise how much more accurate we might be. So let's look at historically first. How much better are we than from a long time ago, and how much better are we going to get relative to forecasting?
Well, I can tell you involving severe weather forecasting. When I first began in the National Weather Service my career in 1989, we had an average warning lead time typically around 4 minutes across the U.S. with the old WSR 57 and WSR 74C non-Doppler radar units involving the radars.
And when you say warning time, this is for severe weather.
This is for
like
severe
hail
weather.
Or tornado or
hail
something.
And tornadoes, and basically the same thing for flooding. So once we expanded our network and modernized into Doppler weather radars, that warning lead time average improved to about at least 10 minutes or so by the mid-90s. With the advent now of adding dual polarization radars add-on to the Doppler radar, it's basically this system now that's within the Doppler radar system allows us to look better into the storms or into a precipitation band moving across the area, and we can better determine the drop size of the precipitation. Also, it helps us to better determine hail size, and all that data, looking into that along with the actual Doppler portion of the radar, allows us to better look at the wind changes that occur within a thunderstorm.
So
and also it helps us to better forecast hail size, and also percentage probability it's going to be severe hail. We also have new technology that helps us now with the MRMS system, helps us to better determine potential severity of the storm, and also looking at the high wind potential within the thunderstorm, and all those variables together is leading to improved warning lead times, and our average warning lead time now is over 14 minutes. So if you look at that, if you look at your watch or your clock and say, well, I've got 14 minutes to get to my safe location, that's quite a bit of time if you just sit there and time yourself. The only question we want to do is to make sure that it's an optimal warning lead time for everyone. So if you're out as a farmer out in the middle of a field and it may take you 10 to 12 minutes to get to your safe location, that's going to be the question. Is that the optimal and best warning lead time for you? And that's what we're striving to do here at the National Weather Service, is to give folks the best warnings. And
we're just 100 feet or
forecasts.
so from a Doppler system.
Sure.
Is it enhanced like you had talked about here in Riverton?
Yes.
And how much of the state is covered then by Doppler radar? Are there some dead areas in Wyoming?
Well, there are some areas in the mountainous regions where the beam can be blocked in areas, but we can, with our Doppler system, we can look up and in the higher elevation scans get into those areas. So it's it is a situation where we're able to effectively warn the residents of Wyoming, and we're continuing to with Doppler radar, with satellite data, and we're looking at other tools within the satellite, the GOES-16 data. There's also lightning mapping that will actually from aloft and where the satellite's located will actually map the lightning strikes within the thunderstorm, and we can look at the intensities of the lightning strikes to better determine whether that storm is intensifying to a severe level or not, and that will further gain us potentially warning lead time, which will give folks a little more heads up to get to that safe location before it's too late.
That's changed how you're warning people, because people don't have maybe just their television. They may not have any television anymore. They just might have their computers or
Sure.
their phones. Perhaps they may not listen to radio like they used to. How have you evolved in how you're giving warnings? And if someone's watching right now and are concerned that am I able to understand and get information when I need it the most and as quickly as I can, what would you tell them?
I would tell folks, have multiple ways to receive your warnings. If you don't have access to TV, if you have access to TV, you can get your warnings via TV, commercial radio. If you don't have a NOAA weather radio, I highly recommend getting one. You can get one at just about any local electronics store, including Radio Shack, Walmart. They all carry those, and you get the warning and forecast information directly from the National Weather Service. So when we issue a warning from the National Weather Service, it will be on NOAA Weather Radio in the matter of seconds, and it's the fastest way to get your warnings.
And usually you can set those radios, if you don't want to listen to them all the time, to listen only when there's a warning. Is that correct?
That's correct. You can set it for just to alert you for just your county or a surrounding county. If you want to give yourself a little more of a heads up that maybe a storm is moving into your region, you might want to set it for the next county to your west or southwest potentially. But with the size of counties in Wyoming, you may not elect to do that. It's definitely a personal responsibility, and it takes less than 13 seconds for the warning to make it onto NOAA Weather Radio. Most of the smartphones now, they have the capability when a tornado flash flood warning is issued, especially, you will get that alert on your smartphone. It will come up as an extreme weather alert, and you can get that. The cell phone companies zeroed in on the latitude and longitude points of the warnings that we issued, and if you fall in that polygon or threat area, you'll receive one of these alerts via your smartphone.
Is that an app then that you're recommending people should download?
Well, it just comes automatically with your smartphone, that technology, and you don't have to turn anything on or off.
I have a smartphone and I didn't realize that.
It's basically in there. So the next time we issue a tornado or flash flood warning, it should pop up as an extreme weather alert. So, have multiple ways to receive warnings in case one method does fail. That's the important thing to remember. And just go to that safe location. Have it predetermined when that warning is issued. That's the important thing of the warning system, is heed the warnings, and go have a predetermined safe place to move to.
Every now and then people might think that, oh, you know what, they overissue warnings. But there's a criteria that
Yes.
you utilize to make certain that you're doing it when appropriate.
That's true. We issue severe thunderstorm warnings when it looks as though, based upon what we're trained to look at on Doppler radar, a storm is going to produce 58-mile-an-hour winds or greater. That will produce wind damage. Large hail, which would be quarter size or larger. Or if there is indicated by us at the National Weather Service, a storm that has rotation that's significant and is developing enough rotation within the storm that could begin to produce a tornado. And if we get a report from our trained spotters, we have trained spotters that are out there, folks that are eyes and ears and look at the sky and everything. If they see a wall cloud, which is an isolated lowering of the cloud base southwest corner of the storm, if within that wall cloud a funnel is developing out of the middle of that wall cloud, then at that point we would be getting that report from our trained spotters that there is a funnel cloud developing, and we match that up with Doppler radar, and that helps us at that point to make that informed decision so that we can accurately get that warning out there to the public so that they can have as much of a heads up to go to a safe location as possible.
It seems to me, at least for those of us who live in central Wyoming, we're blessed to the extent that we don't have a lot of what I would classify as severe weather. Is that anecdotal or is that accurate?
Well, we can have severe weather here. There have been tornadoes that have occurred in the past, even in the Riverton area. So, it's not as frequent as it is into the plains and the southeast part of the U.S., but it can happen. And the important thing is for folks to, if we're expecting severe weather that day and we at the National Weather Service are touting that as a severe weather day, then at that point, keep that in the back of your mind. Start keeping a closer watch to the weather that day. And if a severe thunderstorm watch is issued, that means large hail or damaging winds may be possible over the next few hours. Well, a watch means get ready, get set. Doesn't mean go yet. Doesn't mean go to your safe location. It means keep a closer watch to the weather. When a warning is issued, such as a severe thunderstorm warning, that means large hail, quarter size or larger. Damaging winds, 58 miles an hour or greater, are imminent or about to occur or occurring within the warned area. So take cover, move to that safe location at that point. That's when you need to go. And then when we issue a tornado warning, of course that means tornado is imminent or occurring, and that means obviously at that point, be prepared for more than likely 80+ mile-an-hour winds and damaging, destructive conditions.
Tim, do you categorize by county where you give the most warnings? Do you know in Wyoming, for instance, where you give the most warnings? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, we can look that information up, but I know based on our experience, by the time you get a little further east of Fremont County, that's when some of the your tornado potential may increase a little bit toward Casper, but it's still tornadoes and severe weather can occur in any area here in central and western Wyoming.
Should people depend on social media to get accurate information?
Well, social media is a new area that we at the Weather Service have been providing updated information and warning information. There is a section of social media where there is what we call a bot, and it will automatically populate severe thunderstorm, tornado, flash flood warnings in there from the National Weather Service. You know, you definitely you can get the warnings, you know, on Twitter from that direction. We try to provide updates as much as we can in a severe weather event locally, and you know, as much of an update as we can, you know, to pump that information out, because so many people are turning now to social media, and it is a definitely a good medium to alert a lot of folks in a, you know, short period of time that are on social media, such as Facebook and you know, Twitter. So, you know, we want to stress, we want to get the message out there and try to hit the vast majority of the population, because that's our objective here at the National Weather Service, is protection of life and property.
Sure.
That's what we need to do, is make sure that folks get as much of a heads up as possible.
And we have about a minute left. Just to circle back, in the next few weeks, Wyomingites who are concerned about flooding, they should go to the Weather Service website. Where can they get the most accurate, up-to-date information that can help them out?
Okay, just go to simply weather.gov and slash Riverton for central and western Wyoming. And you know, for the eastern part of Wyoming, weather.gov slash Cheyenne. You know, if you're in the northern part of Wyoming there, you know, go to weather.gov slash Billings, and then weather.gov slash Rapid City. For
the bottom line,
there.
though, is that
So
this is a spring people should.
The important thing is go to weather.gov, and then you can just click on your area there, and it will come up for your local office on the web.
And this is a spring people should really pay attention.
And we should pay attention this spring to that potential, because all it's going to take is a couple of pretty significant systems moving through the area with heavy rainfall, and we could have some serious flooding issues. Because the snowpack is there, and you know, the warming is going to occur as we head into the spring, and that could set the stage for flood potential to increase.
Well, Tim Troutman, the Warning Coordination Meteorologist here at the National Weather Service offices in Riverton, thank you so much for joining us on this Wyoming Chronicle.
Thank you, Craig.
Very much
It's great to
appreciated.
have you.
Great to be here.